coming to you from San Francisco, California. Again? Holy smokes.
Two in a row.
There you go. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for Ralph, Zig, Tycho, and Zig in the Zone.
Thank you, Pauly B. And I am so happy that you had what turned out to be a small injury, nothing major, with your Achilles.
Yeah, I'll be back in the game. I'll be closing out the innings.
Okay, well,
right.
We have to find the game.
We have to find a game. We're always playing some sort of game.
We're looking for a game.
We are. I gave you some baseball cards last week.
Yes, you did.
Did you find anything good? What was it? A month ago when I gave you some cards, you found
a Nolan Ryan.
A Nolan Ryan. Was it a rookie Nolan Ryan?
It wasn't a rookie, but it was 1989, and he's a Hall of Famer, so we got a score.
We got a score. We can get probably a pizza for that.
Oh, yeah. Well, a very small pizza.
A very small pizza nowadays, especially in California. These pizzas are small and organic and cost $1 million. I was over at this place over here on the corner. It's called Square Pie Guys.
Oh, really?
Delicious pie. It's a delicious pie. But you get a little square thing. It looks like, anyway.
$2.50.
Yeah, it should have been, back in the day, it would have been, $2.50 for the slice or whatever, right? No. This thing was like $23.
Really?
Yeah, but it was a deep dish and it tasted good, and it was hoity-toity San Francisco.
I debate with people which
delicious.
Is a better pizza, Chicago pizza or New York pizza, and they're both equally good in their own way.
We only have an hour-long podcast, so there's no way we could even try that one.
Right. Let's get to
I'd get stuck on sauce for an hour. You're right. We should roll right into this because we actually have a great show ahead of us.
We do, and we have a very, very interesting guy.
Okay.
Who's been a guest on Comfortably Zone Network for going on 5 years? Matthew DiBiase.
Yes.
Welcome, Matthew. Finally get you on the radio.
Yes.
You booked ahead, I think 2 or 3 months. You were going to take a day off from work, especially because we stream live on Tuesday.
That's
and
right.
You work Tuesday. I was honored by that you would set aside a time and that you enjoy guesting on podcasts that I've done. And let me get into the reason why. The reason why I was so impressed with you initially as a guest. It was shortly after Trump was elected, and I really didn't like Hillary. And I misjudged the severity of what went on. I knew we were going to lose Supreme Court justices, but I thought this will be good drama. And you were the first one to really convince me that we've got a Hitler in the making. And you were absolutely correct. At first, I was, being a Jew, I am naturally resentful of comparisons to Mein Führer. I mean, this guy killed 6 million Jews alone, let alone gypsies and Catholics and what have you. And to compare Trump and his Mein Kampf wannabe to what he really was and how serious he was in wanting to make it a regime, a Reich. At first we did the podcast, and I go, well, it's an over-exaggeration. But very quickly, I caught on to the fact that, Matthew, you had something there. And I'm wondering where that came from. How were you how did you identify what we had, the severity of what we had going in our lives?
So early on,
Yeah,
you were
so
able. You were. I'm not playing poker with you, Matthew, because you're going to be able to see right through my poker face. So, how did you see through Trump's poker face?
Well, I have been a history buff since ever since I could remember, even at the age of 10. You know, my family was a family of readers. My father was always big into history, World War II, military history, the Civil War, you name it. And so I did a lot of studying of World War II. We always used to watch documentaries on TV, so World War II documentaries. So there was an exposure, an exposure to the forces that created Nazism, the forces that created a Holocaust. There was an awareness of this. And I always, studied on that. And then in college, in my senior year in college, I actually took a seminar on Nazi Germany. So there was a great in-depth study about what led to Nazism being installed in Germany. What were the roots of Nazism? How did the Nazis proceed against the Jewish people? And even after graduating from college, I've read books on Hitler. Just what led to the Holocaust, the enabling that made the Holocaust possible. I know one author used a phrase that I use myself, working towards the Führer, which he said is a good explanation as to why the German people engaged and cooperated in engaging in the Holocaust. And you apply that same metaphor of working towards the Führer, towards Trump, you see the same forces at work, the same enabling, the same willingness to turn a blind eye to the racist, even potentially genocidal rhetoric that you see, like, in terms of the migrants, equating the migrants as a violation of blood purity, describing non-white peoples as filth, criminals, filth, vermin, that have to be removed in order to make the country great again. All had been done before under Nazi Germany. All the precedents were there, all the indicators.
He's still doing it in a speech yesterday about the presidential candidate, Kamala. He was going back and forth between her blackness and her Indian background. What the fuck is the difference anymore? We are dealing with, all of us, we are all human beings.
Yeah.
And if you don't get it by now, you're not going to get it. So
I'll say this. Yeah. You know that what we're seeing right now, we are seeing a one-sided verbal race war from Trump. Because if you looked at his first debate with Biden, all he talked about were the migrants and the border, which is, of course, racist code. And if you look at all the attack ads on Vice President Harris, it's all about race, absolutely, totally about race. In a sense, Trump has become monomaniacal about race.
He can't do it without the permission of his constituents, and we as a voting, say the Democrats win by 52 to 48%. Everybody's going to go, it's a landslide, but you got 48% of the people voting for this guy, and that's a big popular. You get on the bus, half the people are Trumpites. Win, lose, or what's going to change that? Is it a revamping of the school system? Is it you got to have a license to have a kid? Just so that you make sure the kid is being taught properly?
I think you're there's so many things going on, but yeah, we won't even start. That's actually one thing. There should be a test to have a child. but I don't think that's the crux of our problem. And you said something about his constituents have to give him permission. No, he can go ahead and do it, but how many of his constituents does he pick up or lose based on what he says? But the problem is he just gains momentum. He's like a snowball going down the hill.
It doesn't.
And it's scary because
It
no
does
matter what he
not
does,
seem to apply since Kamala took over the campaign.
you know, she's a smart cookie.
She's good.
She's a
Let us
smart
hope
cookie.
and pray that she remains smart, Cookie, and let's hope and pray she wins that debate on September 10th, because that is going to be an indicator.
Oh,
there.
she'll win that debate. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
I think she's a
prosecutor against the criminal. She's
Yeah.
gonna smoke him.
Yeah. And even in that first debate against Biden, Trump didn't so much win as Biden lost horribly. Biden destroyed himself and literally became an old man, very old man overnight. Biden lost it. It's not so much Trump won it, because in many ways, of the 20 questions that were asked in that debate, Trump deliberately refused 10 of them. Any other person would have exposed that super quickly and could have rebounded and held it up against him. It just President Biden literally became an elderly man.
Right.
And that was the tragedy and all that. But in a sense, now events have followed. Now he has stepped out of the race. Vice President Harris is in. We're getting there's energy. Let us hope that she can build upon that momentum, build upon that energy, and going into that debate on September 10th, she has some type of a lead, perhaps beyond the margin of error, that would show genuine, true progress. And then we'll see how that debate, can really, enhance the candidacy of Vice President Harris and Walz.
Well, as a human being, I'm not as frantic anymore, because I realize deep down she's going to win. But we can't let our guard out. We have to get the vote out, and we have to make sure the voters are getting the vote out. So we not only affect 5 people, but 5 people affecting 5 people affecting 5 people is how it works.
Yeah.
And
welcome to Ralph's pyramid scam.
Well, no, you have to build that.
Yeah, you're right. You have to build momentum. We wish we had more time. I'm glad that you're very optimistic that she's gonna win. I think it's gonna be so damn close that I'm gonna be up all night.
Yeah,
like a crack fiend on whatever.
I think he may resign before the election.
Well, here's my thought: is let me ask something to you Republicans out there, if you're watching. We got rid of our old guy. Just saying. We got rid of our old guy.
So.
Can't you force your old guy into retirement too?
I don't think so. It would literally take a debilitating stroke. He would literally have to keel over on his stage for him to be replaced. I think even if he was who knows, he may be suffering from Alzheimer's, and I think he's being propped up.
Well,
I mean,
lately, it's been even worse, right?
You notice he's not out there every day on the hustings. What's going on here?
Because he's starting to lose it, and so his inner circle is starting to report that he's losing his shit because he knows that Kamala's got him on the ropes.
I know what's going on here. I mean, in 2016, one of the reasons why he took it in 2016 was he just did there every single day. He was doing a thing, and it built it up brick by brick. And then finally, on horrible horrors on election night 2016, he stole the bloody thing. He did it. It was through sheer dogged effort. But here, he's just doing maybe 1 or 2 days a week. What the heck's going on? I wonder, what are they hiding?
Yeah. Well, I want to say it was poor campaign strategy by Hillary not going after the key states.
Yeah.
And but nonetheless he won. And getting back to the intro, I thought it was going to be a good theater, and we have nothing to lose. Boy, it scared the hell out of me for a long time, but I have confidence now that not only may he resign, but, and if you guys are right, if he resigns, he's going to prison.
You're not going to take me alive, Copper, see?
Right. Yeah.
Get on the plane to Russia. Get on a plane to Russia. Seriously.
It wouldn't surprise me if some island that he bought with some tucked away money that Iran is buying for him, or the Arabs are buying for him.
The Epstein, I heard the Epstein Island's up for sale.
Yeah. Or a nice little dasha somewhere, and the Russian planes with little Natasha servicing his every need.
Yeah, right.
Well, what started all of this was Nixon being pardoned by Ford, and it gave permission to all of these people to do what they're doing. Something like that may happen again. He may make a deal with the vice president, whoever that may be. That, pardon me, and will make it easier to heal the country. No, it just means festering sores that stay open for 30 years, like with Nixon.
Yeah.
So he's got to pay penance, but one could think just being him is the penance that he's paying.
Still, I prefer a steel cage or a glass boot like Eichmann.
Eichmann,
yeah.
But Eichmann is the pot dealer down the street.
Sorry.
I like him.
You can't get those two guys mixed up.
No, I can't.
One's a buzzkill and the other's, well, anyway.
Right.
We get it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What's your stance on cannabis legalization through the country, or we're in California? How is it in Philadelphia? How is it in Pennsylvania?
I think there are legal dispensaries. I know New Jersey has legal dispensaries. I'm not sure about, I think there might be in Pennsylvania. I myself have never smoked a joint in my entire life. I never took drugs ever. I never smoked a joint. I never took acid. I never snorted a line. I never shot up. I didn't do hash or anything like. Never. I never did drugs in my entire life. So
my mother would be so proud of you.
Yeah, no, I'm not casting a moral aspersion. I'm not saying that.
No,
I mean,
I'm
it's legal in your state. You toke heavily, my dear friend. I mean,
don't start shooting up heroin because it's a gateway drug to smoking pot.
Oh, I know, but to each his own. Ralph, if it makes you happy, my dear friend, may God love you, may or whatever the Jamaicans call it, love you too. Okay.
How about my Colombian dealer?
Yeah, it makes him
happy.
Every fourth of the month, it makes him happy.
Third
of the
month. I'll get there by the fourth. That's all I could promise.
Yeah.
And hey, I'm just curious of what your reaction is. How do you think the people of Pennsylvania feel about impending legalization, whether it comes or not?
I haven't heard anything pro or con. I think we have certain limited medicinal legalizations, but I have not heard any major outcry or protest or complaint. Nothing has really emerged, Ralph, Paul. No, nothing at all. Nothing I've heard of.
Just curious how things are in different states. Got to ask you a few questions. You're an author. Get off the subject a little bit.
Yeah.
What was your favorite book that you wrote?
Of my favorites?
Your favorite book to write?
Okay, the ones I publish right now, like my pro football book, my latest one, which came out, it's coming up on 2 years ago on September 1st, was a very good effort on my part, dealing with the 50 greatest NFL head coaches of all time. Amazingly, my second book, The Art of the Dealers, the NHL's greatest general managers, actually has been still selling after it's coming up on the 7th anniversary. It's still, people are still buying that. And don't laugh. I have this guy. He's the general manager of the Peterborough Petes of the Ontario Hockey League. He also teaches hockey management, an online hockey management seminar, and he uses my book as required textbook reading.
Wow.
for his pupils. Seriously, yeah. And like every 3 or 4 months, there's like a surge in sales in that book, and that's because of his students are buying the book as part of their online classes there, which is a great honor when you think about it. But when you think about it, here I have in my book many of the great GMs, both active and inactive, discussing how did they create the great hockey teams in NHL history. Imagine if someone wrote a book about the great baseball GMs. Who was truly greater, Branch Rickey or George Weiss? Buzzy Bavasi or Bob Howsam of the Reds? I mean, wouldn't that be Wouldn't that be interesting? I mean, I hope I live long enough that I could do a book like that. I mean, I've got so much I intend to do. Hopefully, I can live long enough and create a book like that, just to rank and evaluate using a rating system, which I did for that second book. Who are the greatest GMs in baseball history? Just as I did in the greatest GMs in NHL hockey history.
How do you use the skills that you develop at work to write your books?
Well, I like to tell my audience, I am a professional archival worker. I have worked, in fact, yesterday was my 33rd anniversary of working for the National Archives and Records Administration, which is a federal government agency that its duty is to make available all permanently retained federal records covering all federal agencies from 1789 up to the present time. And I have worked at the Philadelphia branch of the National Archives for 33 years.
Okay, so it shouldn't be difficult for you to transfer facts. You must have spreadsheets and what have
Yes.
you when you write the
Yes.
book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What's the book that you wrote that gives you the most satisfaction?
The two I mentioned before, The Art of the Dealers, the NHL's greatest general managers, that's the one that means a lot to me. And of course, my latest one, Lords of the Gridiron 2, Pro Football's Greatest Coaches. Even my third book, Lords of the Gridiron, College Football's Greatest Coaches, because the Art of the Dealers and Lords of the Gridiron college football thing are groundbreaking works. No one had ever attempted to rate NH general managers using a rating system. No one ever thought to rate the great Division 1A college football coaches using a rating system. Literally, mine was the first. And my pro football book, even though someone else tried to rate the great coaches, mine, I think, is an improvement upon that system. And I'm presently working on two books, which will hopefully, through the grace of God, will come out in 2026. Patriarchs of the Dugout, Baseball's Greatest Managers, which will be my attempt at rating the 50 greatest baseball managers of all time. And also in the fall of 2026, Men in the Huddle, Pro Basketball's Greatest Coaches, which will be a groundbreaking work. No one has ever tried to evaluate the greatest NBA head coaches of all time using a system. Mine will be the first to do that.
Well, does it make Red Auerbach the greatest coach of all time?
I'm not going to give the game away.
Well,
Definitely.
that's my system.
Well, you'll know everyone will know the answer on October 1st, 2026, when the book comes out.
Well,
he's up there. He's up. I mean, way
up there. I'll bet.
Way up there. I don't want to give the game away.
And
okay?
may I ask whether or not, because we are Pauly and I living in the Bay Area. I'm initially a New Yorker, moved out here as an adult. But follow both New York and California sports. Yeah. I want to know about Walsh and Madden, how they rate as great all-time coaches.
Walsh, when my book came out, I believe Walsh was ranked number 10. However, two seasons have passed since the publication of my pro football book, and things have changed. I don't know if Walsh is still in the top 10 or not. I have to recheck my charts to see that because like Andy Reid with his Super Bowl victories, he's really moved up those charts of the Kansas City Chiefs. He has really moved up those charts in leaps and bounds.
Okay, how about Madden?
Madden did not make top 10. And the reason, if you're wondering why, simple. All those AFC conference title game losses he suffered in 69, in 70, the playoff loss to the Steelers in 72, then the AFC conference title game losses in 74 and 75. I mean, if he had been able to get those Super Bowl appearances and win a couple Super Bowls, then he would have cracked the top 10. But that failure, that really weighed against him.
Basically, it was a numbers thing.
Yeah, like. I use six standards rating my pro football coaches: career value, which measures the quantity of your success.
Right.
Average season rating, which measures the quality of your success. Your best 5 consecutive seasons, your best 5 seasons overall, irrespective of whether they're consecutive or not. Your playoff value, in other words, your ability to go for advance in the playoffs, and then your regular season value, which is how good you perform in the regular season. And Madden rate very high in that last category, but his playoff value was not as good as it really should have been with all those early eliminations.
Well, you know, a lot of these ratings have to be affected by the general manager that he had.
Yeah.
All through, not just Madden. Would you agree a lot of it is subjective on some level?
No. My rating systems have always strove to eliminate subjectivity. It's always based on hard, verifiable numbers that anyone can cross-check. It's just I created certain systems. In other words, if your winning percentage is only between 501 and 524, you only get X amount of points. But if it's higher than that, then your point values get higher. If you finish first in your division or your league, you get more points there. If you're able to win a pennant or get into a championship game, you get more points there. If you win the championship, that's the ultimate. Conversely, because I have a system, not just systems of success, but also systems of failure. If you're a losing season, like your winning percentage was like between 451 and 470, 499, you only lost like 1 point. Whereas if it's really like 321, you're going to lose a lot of points. And if you finish in last place, you lose more points there. So my systems have always been symmetrical.
Matthew, do you make some adjustment for comparison of different eras?
No, not really. What I try to do with my numbers is make sure the numbers are the system is universal. In other words, a person managing in the 1920s would have the same chance as a coach coaching or managing in the 2020s. In other words, create categories that would apply to all eras instead of like I did with college football. Like I didn't award points if you won your conference championship because 100 years ago there were very few college football conferences. So I eradicated that thing. I wanted to make sure my systems were broad based, that it was equal opportunity, and I've done that with all of my books.
Okay, Matthew, one more question about the individuals. George Seifert took over for Walsh.
Yes.
He was only there a short period of time, but I hope he gets some credit because just like Auerbach wasn't an easy act to follow with Russell and what have you, great coaches aren't easy to follow. What do you think of George Seifert?
Well, he's featured in my book, Lords of the Gridiron, too. Actually, I have him. Let me have to check my ratings. I believe he's still top 20 according to my calculations, because he was definitely among the top 20 when the book came out nearly 2 years ago. And I think he's still up there. He's still in the top 20. I give him his due. In many ways, he outperformed Walsh in certain regards. I think in terms of regular season performance, people underestimate him. He did a bloody good job. He won 2 Super Bowls for San Francisco. He only had one horrible season when he was coaching the Carolina Panthers, but that was the only blemish on his record. So no, he did very, very good. I have him. Actually, I think I have him ranked even higher than Bill Parcells, if I remember. I have to look at my charts again. Seriously. Yes.
Wow.
But it's kind of like it lends to what you were saying, though, Ralph, is that sometimes in the wake of a great coach, what comes after you kind of forget a little bit, because you're still kind of like, oh, and heartbroken and thinking about that. But he made some real numbers when he was in San Francisco.
Yeah.
Nothing to be ashamed of, but he kind of got lost because of that a little bit. But I'm glad that you're giving him his dues.
Yeah, fans, 49ers fans, yeah, get the book. You'll see where he's ranked. Yeah, if you want to get that book, go out and get it. It's available on Amazon. All of my books are available on Amazon. Just type in my full name and you'll get them. Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. I want to dwell on Arnold for a little bit. Red Auerbach. Um, can't help but dwell on him. I'm growing up and he's winning all those, lighting up the cigars, and I've read his books. Amazing what he did. Just the trade for Russell itself, getting Kuzi, blending in these guys. Havlicek taking over for Ramsey, the depth that he acquired, small Negro colleges, getting Sam Jones, having the connects there, running the franchise. I think that Red Arnold is equivalent to Branch Rickey in his importance on their respective sports.
Yes.
Do you rank him that high? You said, we jokingly said, he's right up there. And my prediction is that he'll do quite well, and you confirm that with your expression and your smile.
Yeah.
What did you learn about him that in your research, that, because it's not just numbers, yeah, you got to learn a little that it's personality and what have you. What did you learn about him that you were most surprised and or impressed by, in awe of? Tell me a little bit about Red Auerbach as you see him.
Red, it wasn't so much, I wouldn't say the master tactician. Basically, remember the Celtics only had 7 basic plays, and they always used the same basic plays. Red Auerbach was the genius of the human equation. He had so many faces that he used with each one of his players. I mean, he was able to balance out the personalities. Like, Kuzi never really cared much for Auerbach. I mean, he never called him Red. He always called him Arnold. It was a very imperfect relationship. Yet Kuzi was the ultimate point guard. He was the first superstar on the Celtics there. And in fact, Auerbach had one of the great backcourts. First it was Kuzi and Sharman. They were the backbone, plus Ramsey.
Jones Boys and Havlicek.
Yeah, that came later, though. But first it was just Kuzi and Sharman. And also Auerbach broke that color bar. He got Chuck Cooper, drafting Chuck Cooper. He was unafraid to put African Americans in prime places on his roster. And don't forget, the Celtics were the first team to have 5 African Americans on the court at the same time there in 1961. I mean, there were racial quotas. Unfortunately, there were racial quotas there, but Red broke through that. He did not allow that, and that's why the Celtics had that great dynasty. He didn't see skin color. And his relationship with Russell, which is absolutely incredible, because you had 2 incredibly high-powered personalities, 2 powerfully proud men. The potential for a misunderstanding was always there, and yet it didn't happen. Both men understood each other absolutely perfectly. It was a true, absolute relationship. And Russell, once he got Russell, because he drafted Bill Russell, Boston had the worst defense in the NBA. I mean, if you look up team defensive stats, the Celtics were always at or near the bottom. Once he got Bill Russell, they literally had the best defense in the NBA combined with the best offense. And that's where you get that dynasty from, because Russell, I mean, I talked to some Celtics players like Bailey Howell, and they said you could take chances on defense because you always knew Bill Russell was right behind you and he backstopped you. So you could take a chance. You could try for a steal, because if you missed the steal, Bill Russell would pick him up.
You know what impressed me about those Celtics in those days? they always had a near retirement great player in his time. Bailey Howell was one. Don Nelson was one. Willie Knowles was one. Wayne Embry was one. Coming off the bench at the 12th guy to set the tone for the rookies, to get good numbers in a short period of time. And he was never afraid to deal with those big egos like Russell. He was just tremendous.
Yes.
That,
Yeah.
he, like I say, he and Branch Rickey are the two guys that I think of in those roles when I
breaking the color barrier.
right.
Yes.
Right.
I mean, there were quotas during the golden age of the NBA in the 50s and the early 60s. There were limitations. You couldn't have on the 5 men on the court 3 African Americans at the same time. It was like an unwritten rule. You had to have an even number of African Americans on your
more than
roster.
two on your roster for a long time, let alone 5 playing. And he didn't even realize it when he put 5 people in there at the same time. He was trying to win.
Yes.
And he was an example of not seeing color, seeing W's and L's.
Yeah. Here's another thing that Red had. Back then, the NBA had the reserve clause, just like Major League Baseball, and that reserve clause was not eradicated to, I believe, the early 70s. So Red had the advantage that once you were a Celtic, you were always a Celtic. He could keep his core. There wasn't the free agency that exists in the NBA now where you know, it's a struggle every season because you're losing people to free agency and all of that. It would have been interesting to see how long the Celtics dynasty could have lasted if the free agency that exists today, it existed back then. That would have been very interesting. So Red had a little bit of an advantage there. He could keep his core. He could keep Russell, the Joneses, Heinsohn, Satch Sanders, Larry Siegfried, Cousy, Sharman, Ramsey, Havlicek, so on and so forth. He could keep his core, okay, because he had the rights and all of that. But also there was that thing, you knew you were on a dynasty. Why would you walk away from a sure guarantee of extra playoff and world championship money? Why would you walk away?
The money changes everything. I think Paul Arison, who was a counselor at my camp, told me once that the most he ever made was like $35,000.
That's right.
So
you know,
given the chance to be a free agent in those days, might have jumped at it. But,
you had to work during off season, just like Major League Baseball and pro football. You had to have the off season job. Yeah. I mean, that's why Wilt was so important. He was the first 6-figure salary in NBA. I mean, he elevated the salary ceiling and all of that. So Wilt did his thing as well in that sense.
Couldn't be a Wilt without a Russell.
Oh, I know. I mean, it's still today the epic rivalry in NBA history. I mean, they can talk about Magic and Larry Bird, but it was, I mean, you talk about Russell and Wilt in terms of just the stats, you know, going at each other, hammer and tongs, the enormity of the battles there, you know, the vying for the championships or who would represent the Eastern Conference in the NBA Finals. It was just what Chamberlain brought to the court. I mean, he literally tilted it. He and Michael Jordan tilted that basketball court enormously, seismically, unbelievably.
And you know who they both agree on was the toughest for them to come up against was Nate Thurman, who ironically George Johnson was the center on the year that the Warriors went all the way back in those days.
75, I think. 75,
right.
Yeah. 75, yeah.
Al Attles was the coach. That was a tremendous team, too.
Yeah.
Rick Barry and what have you.
Yeah.
But they both agreed that Nate Thurman defensively was most difficult for them individually. And he was no slouch offensively, too.
Yeah.
Hall of Famer, ran a great barbecue in this area.
You notice how he turned toward me when he said great barbecue.
Well,
Yeah, I mean,
He knows that this fat man's got a sickness for some barbecue.
well,
yeah.
if you like barbecue, and Nate was
the man.
Yeah. I mean, but Auerbach, it was just the greatness of it. I mean, he knew the right buttons to push. I mean, like in terms of when he had to yell at people, he always yelled at Heinsohn because he knew Akak always had a thick hide. He could take the yelling and screaming and not get upset. I mean, Russell was sensitive, though. Once in a while, he would have to yell at Russell, but what he would do is he would tell Russell ahead of time, said, "Now, Bill, I got to kind of get on you a little bit just to make things equal. Will you be okay?" And Russell said, "I'm cool. And then, Red would do his song and dance, and Russell would just nod his head in agreement. In other words, no feelings were hurt and all that. In other words, it was just a show.
Right.
He had to put on the show and all that.
And most of that came from the practice time. Russell was not a great practice ball player.
But there's a reason behind that, because Russell was always averaging 45 to 47, sometimes even 48 minutes. And Red decided, I need to conserve him. I got to conserve them. Though once in a blue moon, he would tell Russell, you got to practice. But what Russell would do is during those practices, he would block every single shot and get every rebound and ruin everything. And if I said, okay, sitting on the bench, you've done enough. Okay, that's it.
Hey, before we close out, I gotta tell you my personal Bill Russell's story. When I was a kid, we'd haunt the hotels, the Roosevelt and what have you, for autographs close to the Garden. We'd walk with the players on the way to the Garden, and Russell was not signing autographs in those days. And they were playing the Knicks that night. Charlie Tyree sucked. Russell had nothing to worry about that night, so he didn't have to go through his tradition of nerves and throwing up before games. Now he's walking to a game, and I've got a color picture of Bill Russell with me. And just in case, you never know. And he's walking along with Wayne Embry. He was one of those guys who came from the end of his career with Cincinnati, sat on the bench. He's walking to the Garden. And I say, Mr. Russell, may I approach him? Mr. Russell. I said, this is an easy night for you. You're playing Charlie Tyree. You don't have to throw up. So maybe you have time to just sign this. And he looks at me and he kind of laughs. He cackles a little bit. And I said, to Ralph, best wishes. And then he really cackles because I've got the balls to ask for an autograph. He wouldn't sign for his teammates at that point.
I know.
He says, give me that. He writes, to Ralph, best wishes. I have it decoupaged. Should have brought it in here to know. And he just shook his head, got him to laugh in that Bill Russell way. And the autograph means nothing. It means a lot. But it's the personal interaction. So to these players who don't sign for kids,
why are you in the game?
Right.
I'm sorry.
Stick in your head. Why are you on Earth?
So when you ask a kid, what do you want to be when you grow up? And they say an astronaut, it's because they want to go on a rocket to the moon, right? They want to be a police officer because they want to help people. They want to become a vet or a doctor because they want to help people, not because they want to make money. They want to become a lawyer to help people, not to screw people over. So that's the most purest form. When you're playing a game, especially a game that's supposed to be one that reminisces back to childhood, right? I mean, how in the hell are you a sports figure and not trying to be at least that much of a hero to the kid in front of you? I always think of what was it, the Mean Joe Green commercial for Coke in the tunnel.
Away.
Yeah.
I used to get tears in my eyes. Why couldn't I be that kid? You know
right.
what?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, my favorite baseball story involves Rocky Colavito and Ken Hawk Harrelson. Hawk Harrelson always told this story. He said when he was a young, like a rookie or something like that, he was going to the team bus. He brushed past several fans asking for autographs. Just as he was about to step on the bus, a hand grabbed him by the scruff of the neck and brought him back to the locker room. It was Rocky Colavito. And he said, kid, he said, those fans pay our salaries there. We're going to go back out there, and you and I are going to sign every single autograph before we get on that bus. Is that understood? And guess what? That's exactly what he did. And Hawk Harrelson said, I never brushed past an autograph seeker ever again. That's baseball.
And that's Rocky Colavito from the Bronx.
So let me tell this story, unrelated to sports, but, it's related to San Francisco. Didn't know the man, but when I was in his presence, well, I knew him, but he didn't know me really. Anyway, I was in the presence of Robin Williams like 4 times in my life. And one time I was actually able to perform right before him. So I guess I can kind of say I opened for Robin Williams.
Me too.
It was an open mic, but I don't care. Right. Yeah. And so I remember we actually were told that he was going to be there because it was a couple of his buddies back from the Holy City Zoo days. And actually he was performing at the Holy City Zoo 30 years later. He had not been in that room, and we actually recorded the set. But anyway, it was really fun. But I remember him telling us 4 people, hey, do you guys want to go grab something to eat across the street? He had just finished doing his set, and he goes, we should probably leave now because it's going to take 45 minutes to get over there. And I'm thinking, wow, it's right across the street. I mean, we're going to walk there in 3 minutes or less. And no, he goes, oh, we should go. Because he knew once he walked out of the bar, the entire bar was going to empty. And they all followed him out. And they all said, oh, Mr. Williams, love what you did. He sat there for 45 minutes, took pictures with every single person, talked to every single person, was so cool with every single person. And then we went and walked and grabbed something to eat. And it's like, what?
Yeah.
You look into a bar and go, okay, there's 125 people here, 2 minutes per, he's doing the math in his head, how long it's going to take him to go.
Right.
Yeah.
And
God rest his soul.
God rest his soul.
And the fear of letting someone down played on him, as it should all humans.
We all need to connect on some level. It doesn't matter if you're Robin Williams or if you're Paul Brumbaugh or Zig or Matt here. We have that connectivity that we need to. And so many of us are just walking around with our devices in our hands. Hey, how you doing? Yeah, I'm okay. Yeah, I'm fine.
I know for me, when I always check my stats to see if any of my books sold. When I see a sale, that's like an affirmation that gives me the strength to keep going with my future book projects. I mean, hopefully democracy isn't overthrown and I can keep going with my books because, after 2026, I got ideas for like the great college basketball coaches, the great golfers, great tennis players. Heck, maybe even do something about Premier League soccer. I've got ideas. It's just a question of longevity. How long I can live and how long I can be produce. And not be crippled or debilitated somehow. But I want to keep contributing to sports history.
Today will last forever. Don't worry about the numbers now. Worry about the numbers 200 years from now, and you look back, whoa, look at that. Don't worry about the day-to-day things because it doesn't matter. It's just worry about your self-satisfaction, the great job you're doing. And you're a great podcast host.
Thank you, Ralph. I learned it from you, Ralph. I learned it all from you. You want to know why I got in? I mean, when you asked me to create my own podcast, I thought you were nuts, Ralph. I thought I had no radio
Well, I
experience.
am.
No, 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 no,
Make
no, no. You're a
no
genius.
mistake.
You're a
Yeah, he's
genius.
crazy for whole other reasons other than
Right.
trying to get you involved.
We'll get into that with the doctor. Once the doctor comes in, puts me on the couch, everything will be fine. But
But
continue what you're saying.
Yeah, but
more praise.
Yeah, more praise. Go ahead.
thank you. Yeah, but Ralph, I love you. You're my guru,
Who
man.
doesn't? Who doesn't? Well,
I know,
Tally.
but I do, man, and I thank you for having me back on the show. I mean, I missed the things that you, me, and Jerry did together. I wish we could do something like that again, man. Hopefully
we will.
could do something.
Jerry's in rehab. He's been sick.
Yeah, I'm
When he
praying for
comes
him, man. I'm
out-
praying for him.
when
I
he
know a
comes
lot of our
out-
friends, man. I pray for them all, man. I know it's rough, man. Just
Yeah.
it's heck, I'm going to be 61 years old. Turn 61 on Saturday, man. I'm getting old, man. I'm getting old.
Oh yeah.
I
Yeah.
feel, I'm right behind you. But,
Yeah.
a lot of us kind of feel that way about Ralph here. I'll tell you right now, it's that time of the show where I say, you can love Ralph too. That's right. For a
Yeah.
price of a cup of coffee every day, you can have Ralph in your front room. That's right. He will be there. He will kick back. He will drink frozen coffees on your couch. He
Yeah.
will smoke his joint, and he'll go outside. Don't worry. He's really nice about that.
I'll kibitz with your daughter.
I'll give it with your daughter. Oh,
Yeah.
no.
Well,
Welcome to the cancellation podcast. This is Ralph Zig.
I've been canceled on many counts. Don't worry about it.
But that's it. But so no, we all love you, Ralph, and you give us a platform to be as crazy as you are, my friend.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm just me.
You're just me. I'm going to shoot it back over to Matt. Matt, give us those shameless plugs, socials, and anything up and coming, including your books on Amazon.
Yes. You type in my name, Matthew DiBiase, MatthewDiBiase on Amazon. You will see my books. In fact, let's see, with college football and pro football season, I'll be putting them on sale at 30% off. And then when the NHL season starts, I'll be putting my 2 hockey books on sale at 30% off. You can go there. Also, my own personal podcast, The Package Tourist, I will be taping later this evening. Usually I tape Tuesday evenings, usually around 10 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. It's called The Package Tourist. Just Google that thing. It's on a variety of things, Apple, you name it, a wide variety of platforms. You can hear it worldwide. Usually I post new shows Tuesday evenings after 10 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Just keep an eye out. I'll be interviewing professional genealogist Jacqueline Finley tonight about her work about the Lee family of Virginia. I'm fully booked for the rest of this year, and I'm looking for guests for my show for next year. Okay, so please reach out to me. I'm on Facebook or LinkedIn. If you're an author, I don't care what your topic is. I've done novelists, sports authors, academics. Reach out to me. I'd love to have you on my show. Okay.
Well,
so look
we'd
for me.
love to
Okay.
have you do a video podcast on this network, Paul.
Absolutely. We would love to.
You
We're
can
personally inviting you.
transcend what you're doing, and all your stuff will be archived on YouTube permanently. And
Okay.
I know
Okay.
that you don't have
I'll
that
work
going.
something out, man. I'll try and work something out. Okay.
I'm putting you and Paul together, and you work something out. You can do it from where you are. He can help you produce it, and you can have your guests on video as well. And we'd be honored to have you on the network.
Thank you, Ralph. Thank you. God love you. God love you both. Okay.
God love us, indeed. God love us all.
Yeah.
That makes you feel good.
Yeah.
But just remember this. You
Yeah.
might find that your higher power is yourself. You got to be prepared to deal with that you're the only person that, and this is just an opinion from the man I love. It means nothing, but it's the higher power is within you. I didn't mean to be
The belief system, right?
It's a belief system,
yeah.
and mine isn't the only one, but yours can be. And if you just send X number of dollars, what you can, to the Ralph Zig Taco Fund, and we will bless you. And we may even have Sister Mary Zig come in and bless you and touch you for a small amount of money.
Now,
if that appeals to you, you'll talk to me. We'll work something out with the rabbi and have a good day of it. But in answer to your question, yes, God bless us both.
Yeah, and I'll lend back to another great New Yorker, George Carlin, that said, I'm gonna go ahead and give my faith in something I see. I wake up in the morning and I see the sun. It gives us warmth. It gives us vitamin D. It feeds our crops. It's something I can believe in. If you need to pray to something, you know what I've started to do? I've started to pray to Joe Pesci. That's right, because Joe Pesci answers my prayers at the same rate as God does, about 50%. So I lend all my prayers to Joe Pesci. My name is Paul Brumbaugh. This is Ralph Zig Tycho, and that's been Matthew DiBiase. And this has been Zig in the Zone.
Thank you, Matthew.
Thank you, Matt. Thanks for hanging out with us for a couple crazy people.
Paul will be in touch with you and set it up. And you two can be on video podcast, and I'll be in touch with you about your spirituality. Young man, it's going to cost you a few shekels, as spirituality is always sold for in the United States of America.
I love it, man. Love it.
Okay. All right, guys, we are out of here till next week. Keep standing up. We're out, Ralph.
Good.
We'll see you next week, guys.
Yeah. Love you.
Love you too, guys.
Great show, Matthew.
Great. All right.